believe it here.
Mr. Secretary, has this meeting been advertised according to law?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it has.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Diadio?
Here.
Mr. Newton?
Here.
Mr. Palando?
Here.
Mr. Gabelli?
Here.
Mr. Conti?
Here.
Ms. Fisher?
Here.
Councilman McGill?
Here.
First order of business is approval of minutes from prior meetings held on 11/8/18 and 1/24/19.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, can we swear, effect the oath of office on Mr. McGill?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
David, you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that you will bear true faith and allegiance to same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, and will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all duties as a member of the SERA Economic Redevelopment Agency for a one-year term expiring on December 31st, 2019?
I do.
You are sworn in.
Thank you, Lady Roger. Welcome back. Thank you.
Wasn't that, what was that, Carter?
So this is the first meeting you were back?
Yeah.
He was not here the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Seems like you never left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Should I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, Mike, can I make a correction or ask for a correction in 124 minutes? I know Ms. Kilpatrick wasn't here, and I know she's noted in here as seconding something, last paragraph, on the second page of the minutes, where she seconded a motion to close the private session. I'm not sure if it was Rosetta or something.
No, that would have been a mistake. We can,
See that, Tommy? You're not the only one that reads.
Just want to make, just want to make sure.
You got competition now.
no, we know that Ms. Kilpatrick was not here.
All right. Let's,
The real thing is like Joe was supposed to check.
Oh, you see where you started now?
He's supposed to check.
I don't want to get her in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Not you. Not you, Mike.
Too late for that, Vincent.
all right, subject to corrections, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as read.
Not as read.
As amended.
Subject to
Now they get
corrections.
technical now, all of a sudden.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was asked by Commissioner Travisano if he was not able to make it tonight, and he did indicate he was feeling, he's had some medical issues, and he might not be able to make it tonight, which obviously he hasn't. But he did say he wanted to place on the record a statement that regarding the November 8th minutes, that he is against any modification of the billboard situation. I know that's not on the agenda. He
We're
just-
gonna talk about it anyway.
Right, but it's not even, we're not even there yet, so.
No, it just had to do with the minutes, I just wanted to get it out there.
You're losing control.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Diadio?
Yes,
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Travisano? I'm
he's
sorry.
not here.
Mr. Palando?
Here, yes.
Mr. Gabelli?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman McGill?
Yes.
Next order of business, 6A, authorization for payment of bills non-L, that's A through L. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion, we approve on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Diadio?
Yes.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Travisano? Oh,
Joan, he's really not here.
I'm sorry. Mr. Palando?
Yes.
Mr. Gabelli?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman McGill?
Yes.
Next order of business, 6B, authorization for payment of bills NO related non-escrow to be paid when funds are available. That's M and N. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion, we approve on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Diadio?
Yes.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Palando?
Yes.
Mr. Gabelli?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman McGill?
Yes.
Next order of business, 6C, authorization for payment of bills to be paid from escrow accounts to be paid when escrow funds are available, and that's O through Y. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion, we approve on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Mr. Diario.
Yes.
Mr. Newton.
Yes.
Mr. Palanda.
Yes.
Mr. Pavoni.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Councilman McGill.
Yes.
Pending matters, A, waterfront redevelopment project, Mr. Samuel.
The project is moving along well. There's a lot of earthwork that is being moved back and forth on the site. We've also made a lot of progress with regard to the coordination of plans. So I'm very optimistic right now with regard to the way the project is moving.
Nothing to add. Nothing to add.
Any comments from the commissioners? Questions?
We do have a presentation that NFP's going to make as soon as we're able to resolve some technical difficulties. So I suggest, sir, that we can proceed forward and then go on from there. For now.
Open requests, is that for open?
That's for executive session, I think. That
Well, it's just indicate we got a number of Oprah requests, and we wanted to advise the agency that they involve some voluminous information. We'll supply more specifics in executive, but we just wanted to, in open, indicate that there's going to be some time and effort that's going to have to be expended on supplying this information.
Because some of them are related to, well, the ones we'll discuss in executive session are related to litigation matters.
All right.
Okay.
Kevin, are you just about ready?
In just a second to get this new equipment booted up, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry we had
All right.
a disruption. Apologize.
And Kev, you need to move the cap a little bit further away here. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel.
No problem. I was just about here when I got the call from Kevin. And I headed all the way down Journey Mill and I get a train. So it took me a little longer, but.
Well, I don't want to go into executive
Yeah.
until.
Well, if he's not ready yet.
So maybe we could take a break for a few minutes and then,
Well, what, how long is executive? We gotta go over.
We're doing this 10 minutes, you want a break? You need a
10
break?
minutes.
no, I don't need a break. If
Well,
you don't want to go into, if you want to go into executive,
Let's
we
go
can move
into
forward,
executive.
but that's where we have to go.
It's going to take too long in executive, there's too much stuff to go over. Joe, please.
Didn't supply with them, but I'll hand out the,
And I'll steal on that.
Sounds promising.
We got light now.
I don't have a technical degree in case anyone is wondering.
Don't worry, nobody else here either.
I'm
Yeah, I couldn't even pull a
I'm
grip
passing
if you
out
had
to
left
everyone
or
while we're
right.
waiting, a resolution that we'll address after the presentation.
It's just a matter of getting it all done.
There you go. You're on the wall.
We have
That's a set,
EPA.
so-
Okay.
Okay, so we probably need to get this done, right?
Do you want?
One more for Don.
I'm sorry,
One
Jim.
more here.
This in your eyes, let me adjust it out.
You've got it already, Mike? One more from us.
Do you need a book or anything?
12, so we should have enough.
There's two more resolutions.
Yeah. I've got, actually, if you just fold that
And then
over
one
for me.
more, I'll take one after you sign it.
This one, yeah, then I think that will be sufficient.
That's what I'm doing.
Thank you, thank you.
Like this. Geometry, didn't have much geometry either.
You just get the picture up.
There we go.
What page was on? The second page at the bottom, right before we concluded. 124. What is the second? Is that the second page?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're trying to get the target right on your head, that white, that.
Bottom of the second.
All right.
But it was it to close
Must
the
be big coverage
executive
there.
session?
Yeah.
Then it would
Once
be
you
an
get the
executive
actual
session.
picture, I will see how
Let
it.
me see, there you go, let's get that.
Here we go.
All right.
Donnie?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna move down a couple.
That was correct.
You can see? Okay, all right, sorry. No, it's not about the movie, see?
Of course he wants to.
We have to go through it, okay.
I know.
How about that?
I'm surprised you let you go. Really?
It's like magic.
Oh, it was Febuary. And then the last time it was about, for 20 years before that, I was just.
You're on a roll then. You're on a roll.
Make the screen bigger, we're gonna have to get a bigger room.
Exactly.
The only time we were allowed was for Bob
Yeah.
Kenny, Chris Kumari, and now for Kevin McKinley.
I think they all do.
And when John Hogan was the
Ready to go?
freshman of the year.
Gary Tapper is gonna be one of the roast.
Yes. And Johnny Mack.
John,
He was just practicing all in the hall.
Was it good?
He's pretty fun.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
You gonna close one of the lights, or is everybody good?
Yeah, looks really good.
Well, good, okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Samuel, Iacoca, Ambrosio, Baker, thank you for allowing us to appear tonight. I apologize for a little bit of technological issues. Kevin Polson here, Project Executive, North American Properties with Riverton. Our counsel, Jennifer Phillips Smith from Gibbons accompanies me tonight. My colleague Mark Fetta went to help try to take care of some of the electronic issues, and he'll be back in a moment. I'll look forward for you all to meet Mark, who started with us in January. I'm here tonight to update the board on our activities since our last meeting in November. This is actually 1 year, almost exactly, since I was here to present a preliminary concept plan for Riverton in February of 2018. I want to start with and I know there are people in this room who know a whole lot more about this project than I do, and I apologize for taking a few steps backward from the business at hand tonight, which is actually to discuss the new revised concept plan. But I wanted to make sure that everyone, for the purpose of our conversation tonight, understands the background of the project, where this all started 20 years ago, where it's been, particularly over the last 10 years, as Sayreville Seaport Associates, the redeveloper, has been involved in the project. I'll talk a little bit about North American Properties, myself, my colleagues, what our involvement is in the project. What's happened over the past 10 years, what's happened particularly over the last 18 months with our involvement, and then what we see happening in this 2019 calendar year. Just as a refresher, this project consists of 3 primary parcels. Parcels A, B, and C is labeled on the site plan, or the map in front of you, moving from east to west. It's about 418 acres total and about 310 acres developable. Just going back to, not quite the beginning, because this was kind of the beginning of the moving forward after a lot of work by a lot of people here in the borough to get to the point where the redevelopment plan was approved in 1999, which designated over 900 acres, including this 418 acres, as an area in need of redevelopment, and therefore eligible for the waterfront redevelopment plan designation, which constitutes the zoning for the site. In 2017, following the RFQ and RFP process, this body named O'Neill Properties Group out of Philadelphia as the redeveloper for the project. O'Neill partnered in 2008 with an institutional investment firm to obtain the project funding, and the parties formed Sayreville Seaport Associates Urban Renewal, SSA as it's referred to, as the redeveloper. So in 2008, SSA was designated and endorsed by this body as the redeveloper for this project. In 2008 also, the agency and SSA executed the Master Redevelopment Agreement, which is in force today. In 2009, the environmental remediation commenced on the project. That was after the initial acquisition of portions of the NL Industries property and the execution of what we refer to as the 4-party settlement agreement regarding the responsibility for remediation. The 4-party agreement refers to the agency, SSA, the redeveloper, the county, which at the time held a mortgage on the property, and NL Industries, which was the responsible party, using that term loosely, but the party that owned the property and was responsible for the discharge. A basic division of that responsibility was that NL retained responsibility for any contamination in the water, and SERA and SSA assumed the responsibility for remediation of the upland areas in connection with the redevelopment of the project. In 2013, so about 4 years later, the land acquisition and the assemblage was complete, including all the NL sites that were consolidated into this property and the 6.9 acre parcel that was acquired from the MCUA next door. The waterfront redevelopment plan was amended in 2013, and the remediation continued at that time. In 2016, following a lack of progress towards starting the development, the investment partner owner acquired all of O'Neill's interest in SSA, so it became the 100% owner in SSA. O'Neill was no longer involved, and the remediation continued through that time frame. In 2017, SSA engaged North American Properties, my employer, to reformulate the master plan and to execute on the development program. I started on this project in November 1, 2017. And I was first honored to appear before this body in January of 2018. I'll come back in a bit to North American Properties. I know we've told you all about our company and what we've done, and I'll come back to some of the specific reasons for us being here. But I wanted to talk about, during this 10-year period, some of the other things that happened and some of the other outcomes of this process. Beyond the remediation, there are other benefits that have come out of the 10 years of activities. The first is the preservation of green space. Parcel A, which we saw on the plan, the parcel 55 acres east of the 35 bridge, has been preserved for permanent green space. It was acquired using state, county, borough, and redeveloper funds. It was deeded to the Department of Environmental Protection, the State Department of Environmental Protection in Middlesex County as permanent green space. And the remedial capping of that site was completed by the redeveloper in 2018. There's currently some documentation closing out that project. It needs some sign-offs at the county and state level, just administratively, so that documents can be recorded and that project can be completely closed out, but the physical activity was complete last year. That's a picture of looking out across the bay toward Perth Amboy on that site from last spring. Parcels B and C, the sections between the two bridges, and then which is parcel B, parcel C to the west, have been subjected to a conservation and public access easement in the amount of 13.7 acres. It's shown schematically along parcels B and C there. This is an analytical tool that we were using to determine the various types of topography that we'll be dealing with as we do work within that access easement to create the waterfront promenade and public amenities associated with the waterfront promenade. And these are just some representative studies of things that we're playing around with as we look at the various conditions of the promenade, the bulkhead area along the western frontage of the property at parcel C. But this easement is in place, and the promenade and the amenities will be constructed as part of the development program pursuant to the master redevelopment agreement.
The movie theater, is that in B?
No.
Is that in-
No.
It's not included, but it's.
No.
So
It's outside the redevelopment.
Yeah, it's outside, but it's
the
in section B, in front of section B.
The Amboy Cinema, yes, you're exactly right.
Below.
Commissioner
Below
Conley, it's
it.
to the south. It's to the south of, I'll get to a plan, when I get to another plan, I have another plan up, I'll show you exactly where that is. But it is between the two bridges in that area. And lastly, as far as the investment and financial commitments made by the redeveloper and continuing to be made by the redeveloper include the land acquisition and related costs. Once again, these were private funds in the amount of over $100 million in land acquisition and related costs. The county had a loan to secure to the initial acquisition of the property. That loan balance today is approximately $3.5 million, and that would be repaid from the pilot RAV program. Remediation and related costs, $80+ million. The original budget for this project was $40 million, just under $40 million, $39 million in change. The state issued $20 million in hazardous discharge site remediation fund grants. The $20 million in grants was spent some time ago. Those grants will be repaid to the state from the proceeds of the Economic Redevelopment and Growth Grant, where the state program we'll talk about a little later in the presentation to help support the development of the project. The Garden State Parkway interchange improvements, the redeveloper contributed $15 million in direct contributions, plus incurred several $100,000 in costs in addition to that in support of that interchange work. That interchange work is scheduled to be complete in November of this year. And the last two pieces will be the northbound exit and entry that provide direct ingress and egress to and from the project. There's also an additional scope of work and approximately $2 million to be completed by the redeveloper in the Chevalier corridor at State Route 9 and State Route 35 and US 9, in addition to the primary interchange work. As you all are probably aware, the redeveloper has been paying a fee of $200,000 per year, redeveloper fee to support the activities of the agency. Obviously, in 11 years, that's over $2 million paid. The redeveloper also pays for all direct costs incurred by the agency in connection with this project, professional fees and other expenses that are incurred in connection with the Riverton project. Lastly, the land tax is currently $934,400 per year. There's a digit missing there, but that's the current tax bill that goes into the borough's general fund, and is allocated out of the general fund in accordance with all other tax receipts. Any questions about the information that we've shared so far? There being none. So going back to North American Properties, why are we here? We were engaged, as I said in the slide, by SSA, the redeveloper, when the project stumbled a bit. As you all know, the original plan called for an enclosed regional mall on this site. The market for that product just didn't prove out over time. And so we were brought in based on our expertise in building mixed-use communities. North American Properties was founded in 1954. The Atlanta office, out of which this property is being run, was founded in 1996. And from the time of the recession to today, the focus of our office has primarily been in urban format, mixed-use, vertically integrated environments. This is the direct, what I would call the direct analog to Riverton, and particularly to the heart of Riverton. We'll talk a bit about that as we get to the concept plan. But this is a project, this is a photo of a project of about 86 acres that was acquired out of, it was bank-owned foreclosure, a victim of the recession, so to speak, in a suburban location in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, on an interchange. That's Georgia 400 that you see to the upper right, the major north-south arterial from the core of Atlanta up through the suburbs. This 86-acre site, in a period of 6 years, was transformed from this to what you see here. This is not a rendering, this is a photograph taken almost 2 years ago now. You see the construction in progress. So this, just for comparison, this is about a third the size of Riverton overall. I would say when we look at the site plan, we're going to look at this mixed-use core. We'll use that term, mixed-use core of the village that provides the heart of Riverton. And there are a lot of analogs that come directly out of this. You can see the vertical integration along the primary spine of the project here. So this is residential over retail, street retail. This is an office building as you get north here over retail. A hotel still under construction here. You see this hotel opened in January of 18, but the hotel is the end cap and has restaurants, coffee shop in the base. more residential over retail here. These are 4 and 5 levels of residential over retail. The last piece of the project actually started about 3 or 4 months ago, and it's a companion office building that's being built in this area right here. But these are single-family townhomes. So you have the apartments over retail, multifamily product. You have the single-family townhomes on the edge, the western edge here of the project, and then office, box retail. So it's a mix of uses very similar to what we envision for the mixed-use core of Riverton. This is the concept plan that we first presented in January, and this board was kind enough to approve in February of 2018. This came out of our design process that started in November, where we studied the plan, studied the site, studied the market, studied the precedents within New Jersey, and tried to define what did this project want to become. And the first thing that we identified is the opportunity here where the existing bulkhead is located to have connections to the water. The slopes, in the rest of this site really provide a gentle drop down to the water, whereas here it provides an opportunity for the guests to experience the water as closely as you're going to experience on the site. And so that's why we designed that mixed-use core, the hub of activity around this waterfront connection point. In this site plan, what you see here in the red, and you'll see in our current site plan, this older version showed traditional retail surface parked around the southern edges. Deck parking here, parking garages here to support the more dense mixed-use core. Residential product along the townhome product along the waterfront. Here in the core you have apartments over retail. And then to the north you have more apartments here, townhomes here, and then the office in the blue. And this was just a very preliminary, what I would call a placeholder for density on parcel B. This showed 1 million square feet of commercial on parcel B in a higher density format. And Commissioner Conti, you were asking, the theater site is that building right there. So that's the property line between the two.
Thanks.
Sure. This was, we stand by a lot of the fundamentals that we saw here. What we've learned over time is that we've responded to the market. We've responded in a granular way, in a very fine point way to the remediation plan, and reconciling the remediation plan and the development plan so that the residential goes in residential remediation zones and the commercial goes in commercial remediation zones. And so the plan, to a naked eye, it will, and we'll look at it side by side, which will help. To the naked eye, it doesn't look all that different. Similar concept with the mixed-use core here along the water, box retail on the fringe, office and residential. There's a zone here, for example, that's commercial, that was originally residential, that is just, it's closed out for residential use based on the environmental condition. We changed the block grid configuration through here to address environmental concerns, and we studied a little bit more in depth the opportunity here on parcel B with the bridges rising on each side. It really, and the potential views across the bay here. We look at this as a higher density format, supported by deck parking and buffered to the highways on each side by the parking structures. The program will compare side by side. Again, there's some differences in some of the numbers. As you all are probably aware, the commercial zoning is what I would say is an unlimited density. It's going to be a market-driven density. As long as the commercial use is permitted within the zoning, it's allowed to be built at whatever density gets approved in a particular site plan. The residential units obviously capped at 2,000 units. That has not changed. Physically side by side, as I said, you can see some changes in the grid to the north, just taking advantage of the geometry of the remediation plan. you can see some changes to the road geometry here. This was, did not provide very efficient access to the north off this Peter Fisher entrance. This is, for those who aren't familiar with the plan, this is the new northbound exit from the parkway. Will go under the parkway and tie in here. And it also connects to the southbound entrance ramp that's open today. The southbound exit ramp is open today, and the northbound entrance will take you once again under. It will exit. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It will take, the new northbound entrance will take you out of this exit from the project and under the bridge and directly up onto the parkway. So these are obviously the high traffic access points. We are relieving. We're using this as a traffic reliever, moving traffic, getting traffic directed to the north and into the density in the northern part of parcel C and all the way over to parcel B. And here on this movement, we felt that this traffic pattern created too much a vehicular priority, and we wanted to calm the traffic and create a better opportunity for pedestrians. In fact, there was no opportunity, the way this was designed, there was no opportunity for sidewalk along this street, to the east side of this street. So we've actually picked up some area to be able to add more pedestrian connectivity through here and slow traffic down and signal to the guest arriving that you're arriving somewhere. And we're actually choking down traffic. I know that everyone thinks we want to move traffic, and we do, but as we move from from this block to this intersection, and then to this intersection, and then into the mixed-use core, we're actually choking down traffic at each point to make this a primarily pedestrian environment. Cars will be allowed on this road, but it will be clear based on the physical environment that this is primarily a pedestrian area. You park here in these garages, and then you enjoy the pedestrian experience here. Side-by-side comparison, we're a little bit less on retail right now under this plan, a little bit more on the office and other commercial. We're down quite a bit on hotel. I wouldn't read too much into those numbers. This is what the plan shows us today. This is what the market tells us today. I will tell you that as we design this plan, our mission is to create this core, create this place, and then the market will tell us what each of these respective boxes wants to be. It will tell us whether this block wants to be office or whether it wants to be hotel. The idea is that we create the road grid so that this 6-acre site could become an office building, the parking garage, or it could be a limited service hotel, or any other commercial use that qualifies under the zoning.
What about the marina?
The marina, so this public information, obviously we around this table are all aware of the Baykeeper litigation. The agency is a party to that litigation, as is the redeveloper and NL. The marina is still a really important thing to us. We don't control that right now. The responsibility for contamination in the river is NL's responsibility under the 4-party settlement agreement. The litigation, you all may recall, the Baykeeper filed a motion for a preliminary injunction about a year ago after our presentation here and after our public session at the senior center. The judge ultimately ruled that the judge denied that motion for a preliminary injunction against construction of the marina. The judge ruled on that based on the fact that there was no imminent construction and that they weren't really sure, the judge wasn't sure that if it were imminent, that the judge could in fact preclude North American Properties from doing anything because we weren't party to the suit. That was the basis for that outcome. It doesn't mean that was resolved necessarily in favor of constructing a marina in the river. So we have some legal hurdles to get through to get a marina. I will tell you that as I said, fundamentally, the connection to the water is an important part of the design of this project for us, whether that means a marina, whether that means transient dockage, or whether that just means a well-conceived and executed promenade along the water. I'll tell you what we're showing here in plan view at this point, and we've done quite a bit of we've done quite a bit of studies on what this area of the plan looks like and feels like. As you all may know, the floodplain levels were increased after Sandy. We're building 2 current floodplain plus 2 feet. We are based on the advice of our design professionals. We are building to a 30-year projected sea rise level. So we're building to the future. And so that's basically an elevation of these buildings at 18 feet above the water. So the idea of how do we connect this physical facility at 18 feet above the water to this point at the water through the connection of this bulkhead area and the improvements to that, it's a very important part of our design. And so what's illustrated here in the schematic plan is just a transient dockage facility. So for recreational purposes, for pleasure boat, day boats coming up, being able to connect, taking advantage of the facilities, going to the restaurants, going to the theater. So that connective and interplay with the water is important. I can't stand here today, Mr. Chairman, and say, yes, we can go build a marina tomorrow based on the legal stats. But we have not dropped that from our goals, and we will deal with those issues at the appropriate time. Right now, we're really focused on the landward side of this project and getting things started.
The priority is the development.
The priority is the development. The priority is to get this place built, to get physically get buildings out of the ground as expeditiously as possible, using sound development judgment, and getting this place, the mixed-use village, delivered.
National Lead is responsible for that cleanup, right?
Under the 4-party agreement, National Lead retained responsibility
Right,
for
so
everything that's...
anything you wanna put out there for boats or anything else, it's like, depend upon them cleaning it up, whenever they get to clean it up. So it's-
Well,
I'm not sure you
it
can
has to
conclude
be
that.
cleaned up.
Yeah, that's part of what the lawsuit is about.
yeah, I know,
Well, when is that gonna be determined, whether or not it needs to be cleaned?
Hasn't gone to court
Well,
yet.
Yeah, I think that's,
not decided in a court, that's decided on testing of the water, testing of the soil.
well,
It actually, all that's probably gonna be resolved
Yeah.
through the legal process in court.
because I know I was out in a boat with the people from National Lead, taking the stuff out of there years ago, sampling it, and it wasn't.
Well, doesn't have, if it's not contaminated, I mean, has the contamination been proven?
I believe that there's definitely contamination in the river, but there's contamination in the entire river, okay?
And whose responsibility
Primarily
is it
from
is what they're arguing
sediment and
over.
everything else.
Because we're at the end, and you had 150 years of industry for 50 miles upstream, so.
And so I don't want to give the wrong impression. We really like the idea of a marina and the activity it brings. We are planning to that goal, but we are also planning alternate mechanisms to connect to the water and to make this a celebration of the water. I probably have mentioned this in this room before, but my apartment in New Brunswick overlooks the river, so every morning I get up and look out my window and think about kind of what this is all about, and it's an inspiration. We really need to celebrate the river. So the comparisons. I'm sorry. Any more questions, comments about the plan or about the program as we have laid it out?
What about the time frame for start and completion of your project?
Let's-
Compared to your one in Georgia?
Okay, so I mentioned that project in Georgia was about a third the size, right? So I would say it was a sprint. It was probably a marathon distance, but it was a sprint speed. And the last office building is being, the ground was broken 4 months ago, will be completed sometime in 2020. So nose to tail, that was 9 years.
Okay.
Start to finish.
All right.
This will clearly be longer than that, because it's just
That's what I'm getting at.
much more significant. I'll go to the old saying, you can't finish till you start. And so our goal is really the start, right? We want to check all of our boxes so that we can start construction this year. And that's, we'll get to that, it may even be my next slide, no, not quite yet. So, what will we start with? We are focused on 3 areas of the project to lead. Phase 1A here, Phase 1B here along the Peter Fisher entrance, and Phase 1C, which is that mixed-use village, the core of the project that I described in the photos that we showed. If you look at the content of this envelope, it's almost exactly what the photos that you saw in Atlanta. It's apartments over retail in 2 blocks here. It's office over retail here and here. It's hotel over retail in this area. This is a state-of-the-art cinema, movie theater, live entertainment venue, food hall, restaurants along the water, townhomes in this area here. This is a bit of an old configuration. As I said, retail and service out parcels, what we call the highway services area. This is a very important connection to the Garden State Parkway commuter and excursion traffic. And Bass Pro's sign sits right here.
Still there?
It's still there. We're actually about to move that. We have some work to do out there that's going to require that. Bass Pro's very excited about this. They remain very excited about this opportunity. We remain very excited about them being here. So
When did we get-
they're asking us when we're going to start. So
I don't remember, when did we get to the phases, changing the phases to, from, like 1A, B, and C? Because we didn't have 1A, B, and C before, so when did we? do
That's
that?
just being developed now.
Okay, so we don't really know about that, and we didn't approve that, right?
no, absolutely. So and that's a great point.
That will be
Commissioner.
part of the phasing plan.
Yeah, that-
When you ultimately do it, but that's what they're planning right now.
Yeah, so Commissioner, our goal right now is to find what's first. That's,
No, I understand.
your point
Are
is
we gonna have, are you gonna have a plan, or are you just gonna have the first few phases, and then you're gonna wait and work, and then a couple years later, come up with the next phases, or are we gonna have it, phases first to last?
So we
At
will
once.
take this plan. One of the what we're asking the agency to do tonight is to approve this concept plan. So this is I guess you could say this is the potatoes that are in the 10-pound sack, right? This is kind of the basic layout, the basic mix of uses, the basic design, so that we can move forward to that next step, what you're talking about, which is breaking this into bite-sized pieces. How is this going to be delivered over time? I can tell you generally it's going to be from the south to the north. The areas here, we've talked about this in some of our prior meetings, the areas to the north here still need to have some geotechnical surcharge to stabilize the processed dredge material that forms a lot of this land here. So those activities will continue for the next probably 3 years in this area. So we will, as we develop here, we will then, so generally, this is phase 1 with some pieces out here along the edge, and then the mixed-use core. Phase 2 would be surrounding that mixed-use core, and then phase 3 would be the balance of parcel C, and phase 4 would be parcel B. Now those are, I've broken this into 4 phases. This is, on this plan is approximately 6.5 million square feet of space. 4 million square feet of commercial and 2+ million square feet of residential. Those 4 phases will clearly be broken into subphases. From an analytical standpoint, we will break it into subphases based on the block plan. So this particular block right here with that building would be 1 subphase. This block would be 1 subphase. Each of these apartment buildings would be a subphase. So we'll break it down into how we see the development community embracing this project and executing on this project. And that will be a plan, right? So we will bring that plan before you, I would say, within the next 60 days. And that phasing plan will say, here's the sequence in which we will deliver the subparts of this project. Here's the traffic concurrency that will be aligned with each of those projects. Before you deliver this, for example, there may be a condition that says, okay, before we deliver, the last of these office buildings or the 4th of these office buildings, we're going to need to have access through parcel B to connect to State Route 35 as a traffic reliever. That would, I'm not saying that would be specifically the condition, but at some point we will have to have access a third point of egress to support the density that's up here. Those issues will be reflected in the phasing plan that we present for the board's approval. In addition, the amenities and facilities, excuse me, the amenities and facilities that are reflected in the master redevelopment agreement will also be reflected in that phasing plan. So they will be associated with project phases and subphases as they progress through time. Does that answer your question?
Does that also include the pilot, anything with the pilot? The
Yeah,
pilot
so
maintenance and everything.
the pilot, it will have a suggested application of pilot proceeds, pilot RAB proceeds.
That
to-
hasn't been done yet either.
It has not. And that's on a, it's, in fact, that may be a good segue to, our, well, let me back up for just a second. So we talked about the mixed-use village, and I know a picture's worth 1,000 words. We've shown pictures of Avalon, but I want to show you just 2 points on this plan. And I spoke about the idea, okay, so people are coming off the interchange, coming off the parkway to this interchange and into the project. And so we want to step down and create a sense of, a change in environment as you come to this block, and then a change in environment as you come to this block. And as you get to this throat, you see that there's a very narrow road here. It's really just a 2-lane road, with a portion of it has on-street parking here, what I would call teaser parking. There'll be valet services in the middle here to serve these customers and park in these garages. And the primary garage, customers will learn that their access to here, if they want to shop here, they're going to come in and get into this garage, or this garage, as quickly as possible, rather than coming in here and trying to find a space. There just isn't going to be much parking. And so I'm going to show you an image that we've prepared of what this experience will look like as you approach the point between these two buildings. I'm going to also show you some photographs from Avalon of this area, which is the village green of the Central Plaza. The dimensions of this area are exactly what you're going to see on the photographs from Avalon. This is as I said, the movie theater, restaurants and retail lining this plaza. And so the next three or four photos are this area and this area. This is a rendering of Riverton, showing this, as I said, this experience as you're coming from Chevalier and you're getting 2 blocks into the project, and all of a sudden it just feels different. This is because it's going to feel more like a town. Very limited parking here, on-street parking on both sides, and 1 lane of travel in each direction. You see the verticality here. This was actually shown as 2 levels of office over retail. This building today is actually an apartment building over retail. So everything along this road will be either 2 levels of retail, a level of retail over restaurant, office or apartment or hotel over retail. This is the village green in Avalon. We adapt it to seasonal events in the summertime, and spring through fall. It has a turf surface. It has a permanent stage with a permanent sound system. So this is obviously a live performance. People have their blankets. It's a family-friendly event. We have the central fountain here, and you see the retail and the restaurants that line this area. This is a wintertime setup, so we also have a permanent infrastructure for the ice skating rink that's set up in the wintertime, and this is obviously in Georgia. I think the ice skating rink will have a longer season here and will be a very popular amenity for the residents, for our guests, and set up with the seasonal decor. But all the infrastructure for the hockey rink the ice skating rink is set up. We have a vendor who comes in, plugs to the other side of the conduit, gets the refrigerant system going, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine getting that thing set up every year. As you might imagine, these residential units that overlook this, this is if there's waterfront property in Avalon, so to speak, it's this is the highest dollar rental units in the property overlooking the heart of the community right here. And as you see, in fact, those residents congregating, this is actually Santa's arrival. So it looks a little bit like 4th of July, but it's a holiday event, and about 18,000 people pack the community for that annual event. But this is, as I said, the exact dimension that's planned for the Central Plaza at Riverton, and creates the heart of the project. Next step. So what are we trying to accomplish here? in the past year, what have we done? Well, we've done more than just color up some different lines on paper, obviously. That's I guess the easy part, that's the outcome. We've spent time in the market trying to understand who wants to be here, what kind of deals can be made, what is this environment? Everyone reads the papers. We all know that retail has its challenges. We all know that the suburban office market in New Jersey has its challenges. We all know that the hotel environment may not be the healthiest. But our job is to figure out how the disruption in those markets creates opportunity and how to provide a place that's different than anything else that's an alternative for these users to go. A place in central Jersey to connect points to the south and points to the north and create a regional destination. So that's a lot of what we've tried to do, is to understand the market and reflect it in the plan. But where we stand today, what do we need to get done? We are in the process of working with the professional staff for the agency on an amendment to the waterfront redevelopment plan, some zoning adjustments, some tweaks to uses, some technical changes as far as a progression of parking garage plans, etc. But I would say that we're probably 75–80% of the way through that, and we would like to get through that over the next several weeks and be in a position to present that to the board for your review and approval within the next 2 meeting cycles.
I got a question about the parking garages. Who's gonna pay for the parking garages?
Well, obviously the parking garages will be part of the master budget. Will parking garages be part of the pilot RAB program? We haven't gotten there. We're just in the beginning stages of the discussions about a pilot with the professionals. As you all know, the professionals have been identified, and they've been waiting on us to finish our financial information that will allow them to underwrite that program. So could be part of the pilot program, could at least a portion of it. We just don't know. We haven't gotten there yet. But they're part of the overall development budget at this point.
Yeah, they are not something that the borough is going to pay for.
That's today.
But obviously, this is a zoning ordinance and requires action beyond the agency here. But the agency is, as always, will be our first stop for any approvals. We are in the process of reviewing a proposed amended and restated master redevelopment agreement. This document was put in place in 2008. It's been amended at least 3 times as amendments. It's also been amended numerous times through other documents. I personally spent probably the first 6 months on the job working with our legal team to try to peel back the layers and understand kind of what actually constituted the redevelopment agreement at that point. So knowing what we're trying to put together, 6 million plus square feet of development, knowing that all of the developers, lenders, end users, anchors that are going to be involved, everyone's going to want to know, okay, what is this redevelopment agreement and what does it mean to me? So we felt it was very important for us to consolidate all of those revisions into one single document that could be a single guidebook to what governed this redevelopment relationship. And that project is, I would say, probably 60–70% complete. We still have some work to do with the professionals, but we've been working together closely since December on that project. Phasing plan, Commissioner Newton, to your point, we will be going through the process that I described of taking this concept plan, assuming that it is approved here tonight, and we'll take this concept plan, divide it up into the sequencing pattern and associated traffic concurrency and amenities and facilities deliveries.
And Kevin, to
Yes, sir.
Don's point, the phasing plan will match up the construction schedule, the amenity schedule, and the pilot schedule.
And start and stop completion.
Yeah, it's really more sequencing than, it's the durations, the development phases have durations. But yes, each one will have traffic concurrency, so what on-site and off-site improvements have to be in place to support that density or level of development. What amenities and facilities from the master redevelopment agreement will be associated with that portion of the development. And the way we've analyzed it to date has been broken down by phase and sub-phase within each phase. And as I recall, the last schedule I looked at probably had 30 development sub-phases So if you think through the math there, if it's 6 million square feet and there are 30 development subphases, each one's 200,000 square feet, about the size of an office building. I mean, just once again, just kind of some rough metrics there to give you an idea. And yes, each one will have a scope, a type of use, size, duration. Payment in lieu of taxes, as I said, we're just at the beginning of that conversation. The pilot program was contemplated by the waterfront redevelopment plan. It was contemplated when the borough, in its wisdom, put the redevelopment plan together in 1999 and approved it, that various sources of public-private partnership, public funding would be necessary to get this project out of the ground, including specifically a pilot program. It was also included in the master redevelopment agreement in 2008. Phase 1 site submissions, site plan submissions. So that's I would say the nuts and bolts that's in front of us today. We are drawing furiously right now on the phases 1A, B, and C that I showed you earlier. We plan to be before this body in June with our package for a blessing from the agency before we file for planning board review. July 1, I guess, is our application date for that process to be in the July-August cycle for planning board approval of our site plans for the initial phases of the project. Economic redevelopment and growth grant. I talked a bit about the ERG early on. This is an Economic Development Authority state level program, and it basically is a sales tax increment funding program whereby a portion of our qualified capital costs, basically 20% of qualified capital costs related to relevant portions of the project, which would be the commercial portions that generate sales and use taxes. 20% of those qualified capital costs can be recovered through 75% of the sales and use taxes generated by the project, and is analyzed on an incremental basis by the state. So that's obviously not a borough level activity, although we will require an acknowledgement of support from the borough, which we will obtain from mayor and council. And we have been in front of the EDA in the past 6 or 7 months, updating them on the project. We have been keeping them apprised of our progress, and we are in the midst of preparing that application now. All leading to a construction start in the 4th quarter of this year. And that concludes the visual and formal portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, address any comments. There being none, thank you for your time. Let me.
Kevin, one sec. Could you
Yes, sir.
give us a little rundown of any events that are coming up and efforts to publicize the project and
Sure.
educate the public on that?
Thank you, Mr. Ambrosio. Yeah, so we are, in the next 30 days, the only things that I have specifically on the schedule is an appearance at the monthly Historical Society meeting, March 14th, at the request of Art Rittenhouse to give an update on the project. We've been talking for a bit about that. I felt it was appropriate only after obviously presenting to the agency first any new news that we might want to talk about. So I thought it might be that March might be a good opportunity for that to take place. March 20th, we plan to go in front of the planning board just for an informational update. We last saw them probably May or June of last year for an update on, it was after our senior center presentation in March, and we had some inquiries, hey, when are you going to come see planning board? So we went and gave an update there. So we'll follow up and do something similar. Need to get on that agenda for March 20th, but that's the date we've circled for that. And we do plan to be back in a month with perhaps some advancement on 1 or 2 of these items before you. But if we're not back in March, we'll certainly be back here in April for some formal action. We don't have a date set, we don't have a forum set but we will do another event like we did last March at the Senior Center, just an open forum, public session to help give the community an update on what has progressed in the past year, where we are and moving these activities forward and getting something out of the ground. I know everyone's anxious to see this project start, and I know that there's some public perception that, well, gee, this other developer was involved and they're gone, we got the new developer and the new developer just needs to come in and start it. And it sounds easy, but I'll just tell you from a development standpoint, this is you probably don't need two hands, probably just one to count the number of projects of this magnitude in the country, with the particular mix of uses, office, retail, residential, hotel. It's complex, it's large, it's something that it's difficult to turn a big boat in a harbor, and so we feel like a year and a half in, we've assessed the situation, we've analyzed the market, we've gotten feedback, we've created a plan, and now we're in the execution phase of that plan. So I understand whether it's folks in this room or just generally in the community that would like to see something happen yesterday, as would we. We're impatient by nature, but we also understand that patience and persistence is what's going to get us over the finish line here. So we want to be able to communicate that directly with the community in a very transparent way, as we did last March when we had the event, which was very well attended. We were actually all, as a group, we were blown away by the support and the interest from the community in what we were doing.
Anyone have any questions, comments? Okay.
Let me turn this off so we can avoid any. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. He's not gonna take the projector or anything?
But we'll close that up after, because he has to.
Is that ours, projector?
No, it's Dave's.
Oh, it's Dave's.
That's mine.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was late. I went back and get it.
I thought he just brought something that was missing
No,
a
no,
piece.
no, no,
Okay, can I have a motion to go into closed?
I make a motion, we go into
Okay.
close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Joe, do you want to read? the-
Tom and Dave? Who was the second? Was Don or you the second? Thank you. All right, resolution of the Several Economic Redevelopment Agency to go into executive closed session.
She's in Pennsylvania. I'll go with her. I've been on the phone with her a little bit.
Was it
I'm signing up on the audit, and I gotta sign.
He was on.
Was it just the routine thing? Because I have to explain why, if she's on the entry, why she isn't here.
Yes, she had a.
It was a family matter, she was.
Family matter, yes.
Okay.
Oh, you have to wait for Vicky to sign this too?
No, I don't have to wait for it, I just have to explain if there's a person on the agency that hasn't signed it.
Okay.
So I will just explain, she had an excused absence, it was a family matter, and
But she's in
we have, certainly have enough people, you know,
I'm ready to second.
well, I'm ready to second.
Okay, we can move on while we're all signing it.
Don't we have to make the motion to approve this?
Yeah, but while they're signing, we can do that after, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
The next item would be the resolution which circulated, which was prepared today, regarding the acceptance of the modifications to the concept plan by NEP.
Would you like to read it into the record, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution of the Cerebral Economic and Redevelopment Agency approving an amended concept plan by Cerebral Seaport Associates Urban Renewal LP with regard to the Cerebral waterfront redevelopment area.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we approve,
Second.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say my role.
It was
I
Tom
was,
and
but
Roseanne.
I made
Roll
it
call,
short.
please.
Mr. Diadio?
Yes.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Palanta?
Yes.
Mr. Gravelli?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman McGinn?
Yes.
Tom, you were the one who
You're good.
moved that?
Yes.
Second?
was Rosetta.
No.
Rosetta.
Rosetta.
Joe, I'm just going to the right side of this now?
Yes.
I'm just going to the right side?
Just go to the right side, yes, please.
And then the
Yeah,
same
I'm good.
page, do the same thing.
Yeah, before I go on, I'll wait till we vote on this.
Okay. Who's pen?
Everybody says you
Move it, call the roll.
for that resolution.
What?
All right, you ready? Everybody signed?
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the budget?
I'm make
No, the audit.
The audit.
Make a motion, we approve the audit on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call, please.
You gotta be fast.
Mr. Diadio?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Martin? Mr. Palanda?
Yes?
Mr. Gravel?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman McGill?
Yes.
Any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, just got one comment I got to ask Joe.
Go ahead.
Did you ever do anything with Weber Avenue?
No, except to visit it. I
What do you do?
haven't contacted, at your request, the worker, the public work.
Yeah, I'm up there gonna
Try
do
and close that off.
it. Maybe,
And then we voted.
the Source Authority might do it, I don't know.
The what?
The Source Authority, MCO, they might do that, because that's going into their property. That goes to their road.
All right, I'll talk to you afterwards.
And the other one, they fixed the chain link lock on the other fence going into.
How did you get them to do that?
Huh?
Did you get them to do that?
I know, but it's done, so.
Any other comments? Can I have a motion to open the public?
I make a motion, we open the public.
All in favor?
Oh.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
In the book, the second.
Anyone in the public wish to speak? Do you wish to speak?
She's looking to run out.
I have a motion to close the public.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
What?
Want a copy of the resolution?
Yeah, take it.
You don't have to wait for me.
Okay. All right, we'll email.
Okay.
Okay, you keep going and she'll stick around. Commissioners' comments?
No, I opened the public portion already. Have a motion to close the public
Make a
portion?
motion, we close the public.
Is there a second, Vinnie?
Second.
All in favor?
Good job.
Opposed?
Okay.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
We'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Can I second that?
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everyone.